If you've spent any amount of time in Los Angeles County, it wouldn't surprise you to hear that it has one of the largest homeless populations in the United States. Over the past 15 years, the numbers have grown dramatically, and while recent data shows a slight decline, the crisis remains urgent. Behind every tent, every sidewalk encampment, and every statistic is a person. A veteran who couldn't keep up with rising rents, a family displaced by medical bills, a young adult aging out of foster care. To understand homelessness in Los Angeles, we need to look at both the big picture and the individual human stories behind it. The crisis didn't appear overnight. After the Great Recession in 2008, rising unemployment and foreclosures hit thousands of families. By the mid-2010s, rents surged while wages stayed flat. From 2010 to 2023, homelessness nearly doubled, peaking at over 75,000 people. With an estimated 71,000 experiencing homelessness in 2025, Los Angeles ranks second in total homeless population behind New York City and second in homeless per capita behind Eugene, Oregon. Even with the small decline in 2025, LA still has more people experiencing homelessness than the populations of many entire US cities. But what is driving the crisis? Experts point to multiple factors: skyrocketing rents, stagnant wages, mental health challenges, substance abuse, and gaps in the social safety nets. Historically, housing affordability is the strongest predictor of homelessness. In LA County, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment has risen by over 65% in the last decade, while wages rose by only 36%. In LA, a person earning minimum wage would need to work 86 hours a week just to afford that one-bedroom apartment. The gap leaves thousands vulnerable. Add in mental health issues, addiction, and corporate landlord practices, and the problem becomes a perfect storm. So, what's being done? Advocates often point to three approaches that have been shown to reduce homelessness in other regions. And these solutions aren't just theories. They come from decades of research and real-world results in places like Utah, Houston, and Finland. Let's first take a look at the Housing First model. Housing First prioritizes getting people into stable housing immediately, without requiring them to first address employment, sobriety, or other personal challenges. The idea is simple. It's easier to tackle those issues once you have a safe place to live. Housing First started gaining traction in the 1990s, where, in Utah, a Housing First model reduced chronic homelessness by 91% over 10 years. The idea flips the old model. Instead of requiring people to prove they're ready for housing, it gives them housing first, then provides support for them. In LA, this has taken the form of permanent supportive housing developments. Although building new units here often takes years and costs upwards of $500,000 per apartment, an obvious issue to be addressed in the future video. Secondly, let's look at the supportive services. Supportive services pair housing with resources like mental health counseling, addiction treatment, and job training. Services are what help people stay housed. Without them, many fall back into homelessness. LA County runs programs like Project Roomkey, which used hotels as temporary housing during the pandemic. For some, this stability led to permanent housing. But supportive services face their own hurdles. LA has a shortage of mental health providers, long wait lists for addiction recovery, and limited job training slots. Lastly, let's talk about prevention. Current prevention practices focus on stopping homelessness before it starts, through rent assistance, eviction defense, and rapid rehousing programs. Currently, this is perhaps the most cost-effective measure. Studies show it's cheaper to keep someone housed than to rehouse them once they've lost everything. Rent subsidies, eviction defense, and rapid rehousing are all tools used in LA. For example, the county's homelessness prevention program has kept thousands of families from losing their homes. But demand often exceeds funding, and many fall through the cracks. None of these solutions are silver bullets. Critics of Housing First point out that the high cost of building in LA makes scaling nearly impossible without massive taxpayer investment. Additionally, some argue that focusing too much on housing neglects the deep needs of people struggling with addiction or untreated mental illness. Others argue for more shelters rather than permanent housing, claiming it's cheaper and faster, though shelter beds are often short-term and don't break the cycle. Supportive services often face staffing shortages and can be uneven. Some neighborhoods have robust networks while others have little more than a shelter. And prevention? It works, but it doesn't fix one of the most obvious and prevalent underlying issues: rents rising far faster than incomes. It's all too easy to get lost in the numbers, but at the heart of it, the homelessness epidemic is about people. A single mother who lost housing after a medical emergency, or a veteran with PTSD. Programs that could work for them may not always work for others. That's why experts say no one approach will solve the crisis. It takes a mix, dedication, and community, tailoring solutions to specific needs. If it isn't obvious, homelessness in LA is complex. It's deeply rooted and incredibly difficult to solve. But it isn't impossible. Housing, services, and prevention can work if we scale them, fund them, and adapt them to LA's unique challenges. At the same time, critics remind us that these approaches aren't perfect and require constant refinement, which they do. But the real challenge is not in knowing what works, but in finding the collective will to do it. Homelessness affects our entire community, not just those living on the streets. You can help make a difference. Volunteer, donate, or advocate. Every action counts. And if you want to stay informed about LA's social challenges, government policies, and solutions that work, hit subscribe, share this video, and join the conversation. Your awareness and engagement are the first steps towards real change.